Welcome to Ethical Preparedness. In this segment of the video series, we'll be talking about another skill set that every preparedness-minded person should know, and that is how to defend yourself. But instead of giving a generic explanation of how knowing how to defend yourself is important to preppers, I'm going to bring up some really good points that most people don't realize that they should even be thinking about. So if you want some things to consider that you very well may never even heard about before regarding self-defense, I really urge you to keep watching this video. And if you haven't seen any of the other videos in this series, they're going to be titled Skill Sets That Every Prepper Should Know, Part 1 or Part 2 or whatever. But first, always remember, you are ultimately responsible for protecting yourself and for providing for yourself. Live your life with honor and integrity. And always be the wolf hunter. Don't be the sheep nor the wolf. Now, I want to start off with that every use of force, especially deadly use of force, should always be a last resort and not a convenient option. This means that if you have to use deadly force, that it was because you believed that you absolutely had to, and not just because it was a convenient route to take. Also, only use deadly force against someone to save a life, never just to take a life. This means that you only use deadly force to keep an innocent person or yourself from being seriously maimed or raped or killed by a bad guy. And you're not doing this just to exact revenge or just to teach someone a lesson. I'm a big believer that if we have a true SHTF grid down situation or economic collapse or anything like that, that violence and danger will become an everyday part of our lives. As people who fail to prep start to see their children suffering from hunger, they're more likely than not to start to resort to whatever means that they have to go to keep their child or loved one from dying from hunger. Do you know for certain that you could bring yourself to use deadly force against someone trying to harm you or your family? Or do you just imagine that you could? Do you prepare yourself mentally for the possibility of this? And do you train with your weapons? And I mean good training. Shooting and movement type of training, not just your standard point and shoot at a cardboard target type of training. Have you ever considered how you may react if you do have to shoot someone? Many people react different ways after they've killed someone in self-defense. Some people react in elation, not because they got to kill someone, but because they faced a deadly encounter and they survived to see their family again. And then some people almost immediately become overcome with grief and guilt about what they were forced to do. And while some people may never fully mentally recover from having to kill someone else, some go about their business saying it was either me or him. If you just quickly think that you could just brush off killing another human being and go about your business like nothing happened, you really need to stop and do some real soul searching and think about it. You need to prepare that you may have guilt or depression of what you were forced to do. You need to prepare yourself that you may second guess yourself to death, wondering if you could have handled that situation differently. And you have to realize that other people will second guess your actions too, adding to you questioning yourself even more, even if it were a clear-cut self-defense situation. But the more that you learn about the average human's emotional reactions, and I'm talking about the emotional reactions that you will have that will take place over the minutes, the hours, the days, the weeks, and the months after you've been forced to kill someone. But the better that you learn about these emotional reactions, the better you'll be prepared to deal with those emotions should you find yourself in this situation. You may also want to study more on the human body's reaction to an actual life or death situation. When you're forced, when you face a life or death situation. Many people have auditory exclusion in these types of things. They absolutely do not hear what's going on around them. There's been many police officers they've been involved in police action shootings who stated that after the shooting was over, and they told what they remembered of the situation when it happened, was that they never even heard the gunshots when they were firing their gun. That the way that they realized that their gun was actually firing was not because they heard the gunshots, but because they smelled the burned gunpowder in the air. Some people will think that they only fired 1 or 2 or 3 shots, and then when the investigation happens and the investigation's over with, and the investigation ends up showing that they actually fired almost their whole magazine, while the person only thought they shot a couple times. The reality is that people will pull the gun's trigger until they've went through the OODA loop and realize that the threat has stopped. And when somebody is faced with an imminent and deadly threat, and they're thinking they're about to die, a person can pull a trigger many times without realizing it because they're focused on saving their butt and they're focused on the threat. Now, I've seen many a keyboard commando on the internet talking about how they don't understand how a cop or somebody else could shoot a bad guy 10 times and only hit them once. I don't think these keyboard commandos truly understand the dynamics behind a deadly force encounter and how fluid and rapidly changing that these events are. I don't think they truly understand the body's reaction to these situations and how our body goes into fight or flight. They also don't understand how our eyes will become pinpointed and cause tunnel vision, and how our hands naturally want to ball up to become impact weapons. How we'll have auditory exclusion because our other senses are taking over as the fight or flight reaction begins taking over. I think these keyboard commandos are Hollywood educated, and they don't know what reality is. I think they envision a bad guy standing 20 feet away from them, and to be standing still like their cardboard target does at the range, and then having time to take careful aim and to pull their weapon and again take careful aim before they fire. I believe that a person can never judge another person's reaction to a deadly force situation unless they were in that person's shoes when it happened, or unless they had had the same exact situation happen to them in the past. Until they've experienced a deadly encounter, they just can't truly and totally comprehend or appreciate what that person was going through emotionally and physically during a deadly force situation. So now the next question is, do you practice shooting at moving targets? Targets that are both moving from side to side or coming at you. Do you practice while you are moving? You need to train yourself to move so you don't make yourself such an easy target. At least start moving towards cover. The reality is that a bad guy is not going to be courteous and stand still for you like your cardboard target does at the range. He'll be moving and trying not to get shot, and he'll probably be coming at you with a deadly weapon. Do you train to give voice commands as you pull your weapon? You want voice commands and movement while you shoot to become motor muscle memory. That you just automatically do it. You know, just like our mouths almost automatically open anytime a fork gets near it, you want the same thing to happen with you when you pull your weapon. With voice commands, besides letting the bad guy know that you're not going to be an easy victim, and besides letting the bad guy know what you have in store for him if he doesn't rethink his actions towards you, giving loud voice commands may create witnesses. These witnesses may not have actually saw what happened, but having them testify that they heard you yell and command to the bad guy for him to stop or to drop his weapon will help solidify your account of what happened. You want the truth of what happened, the truth that you were forced to protect yourself, the truth that you weren't a willing combatant to be known to the world. And the use of voice commands is just another tool to help you with this. Also, speaking of Hollywood education and people that are educated by Hollywood, are you prepared that if you shoot someone that more than likely they will not immediately fall down dead like they do on TV? Are you aware of the fact that handgun rounds are horrible people stoppers, and that the real fact that there's a chance that the bad guy may remain attacking you until he starts to succumb to his wounds even after you've shot him? Are you prepared for the real fact that until the bad guy dies from his wounds that he may writhe around screaming in pain and agony until he does pass? Or how about if the bad guy runs away after you've shot him? And now you don't know if you have a dead bad guy lying dead somewhere around your property, or if you just have a wounded and very angry bad guy now somewhere out there in the darkness. Think about it. When we shoot a deer, who many of times is smaller than your average adult male, we shoot that deer with a large rifle round. And those deer usually still run for a couple of hundred yards before they succumb to that rifle shot. So now you take a possibly larger man, and if you're forced to shoot him with a handgun that has a much smaller round, how long will he go on with this attack against you? Or how long will he run before he succumbs to his wounds from that handgun round? Also, if you are forced to kill someone in an SHTF situation, there's a good chance it will be at night and it'll be a neighbor or a neighbor's kids. Many people don't understand how darkness and fear plays with your eyes and what you perceive at that moment. A neighbor kid may be stealing from you in the night, and when you confront him, you may believe that you saw something in his hands and shoot him. And while it could very well be that he had a gun in his hand, or it could be that he had nothing in his hands, or a tool like a crowbar or a hammer or whatever he would have used to break into your shed, your house, or whatever. And if you shoot someone who has anything less than a gun or a knife in his hand, even if he attacked you with that hammer or that crowbar, people will not understand how that tool is able to be used as a weapon, and they'll be calling for your head. And if you are forced to shoot a neighbor or his kid, are you prepared to deal with the remaining family members? What are the chances that those remaining family members will want vengeance on you? Now, if this is a normal life, you're going to get lawsuits done against you. If this is post-SHTF, these family members are going to want to take physical vengeance on you. So, if this is post-SHTF, will you end up being forced to evacuate your home due to the fact that your vigilance would have to be so high that you know you could not go to sleep without waking up to your throat being slit by one of the dead kid's family members? Also, you and your group, your survival group, should consider how you'll record any use of force actions that you take. You always have to remember things may come back to normal, or your area could set up a form of government sooner than people realize. And if that happens, you should consider the fact that this newly formed government might start investigating violent incidents that happened during the WROL time period. And having what happened recorded and the names of witnesses and etc. may save your butt should the person you had to kill has a family member that wants to get revenge on you by lying about what happened. Also, do you train with weapons other than just guns? Do you train with weapons such as edged weapons or impact weapons? Do you carry backup weapons? What if you're suddenly knocked down and pinned down and you can't reach your gun? Do you have a secondary weapon on your body that's strategically placed so that you can reach it if you can't reach your primary self-defense weapon? Do you practice drawing your weapon on an almost daily basis? You should practice it so much that it becomes motor muscle memory. And how quickly can you deploy your firearm? Anyways, folks, if you found this video to be informative, please subscribe to this channel, as I will be making more videos on these skill sets. And I will also be making many more videos on matters that deal with preparedness and self-reliance. And again, folks, I'm not trying to pass myself off as an expert prepper or an expert in self-defense. I'm just trying to pass on any knowledge that I've learned to other people that may want it. And folks, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and have a good night.